Hey, and we're live, and we're live. Hey, I think we're really getting better at that, but this is episode 66, right? So 66 of Nobody Told Me with Mike and Blaine. And that is Blaine Birch over there, who is running the controls and learning this live stream like nobody's business. Blaine, that was the smoothest entrance we've ever had.
That was pretty slick, hey. So if you saw that, comment and tell us if it looked pretty slick. We was looking at the audio from the video I got going there, but worked out better today. So I'm excited. I'm getting better at it. We're figuring this out.
Yeah, right on. So today it's something interesting. If you listen to this, we're doing this right around the Thanksgiving holiday. Matter of fact, we kind of postponed recording because of Thanksgiving. But so I think it's a Friday instead of a Thursday where we're at right now. But it's still that Thanksgiving, Black Friday, matter of fact, Black Friday, which is what small business owners live for.
Yeah. I don't know if they live for it because it's like everything is at a discount.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. You know, there are some businesses out there that do what 75% of their sales between November and New Year's.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I could see that. Yeah, I could see for some businesses for sure. That's crazy,
Yeah, hey, speaking of sales, I'm sure we both had beer, so we made it a sale somewhere for somebody.
Yeah, exactly.
What are you
All
drinking
right.
today?
I've got okay. So this a new brew I've never tried before, and it's from Glendale, California, called Paperback, and it's tucked in by strangers, West Coast IPA, and you see this guy getting tucked in, and he said they only break in to tuck you in. I don't know what the deal is. There's got to be a story behind this, but I thought that's kind of fun. It's got an entire story from Paperback in California. What about you?
It seems like a that's very creepy, but but B, it sounds like something that we would do, like sitting around the bonfire at a campfire there and just say, it would be funny if you broke in and just tuck people in.
Tuck people in, yeah, exactly. It's got to have that kind of story somewhere behind it.
Okay, you know how every week we beg people to be our sponsor?
Mm-hmm.
Would you be my sponsor? Would you buy us a beer? Would you do that? We'll talk about you. Well, yesterday, no, it was Wednesday. My contractor that's doing the pool and the landscaping and all that, he says, "Hey, I brought you some beer for your podcast." So
Nice.
I guess I'm even taking individual sponsors now, but his name is Garfield, which is a cool name as it is, and super great guy. He owns
Yeah.
Texas Greenscapes here in San Antonio. Now, like Pat, I guess I have individual sponsors. Remember, Pat bought me a beer from a brand that you recognize. Garfield did the same thing, but it's a brew that I haven't had of there, so it's going to be good. He brought the Christmas ale from Breckenridge Brewery, right? So
Nice.
they had Breckenridge has got like an oatmeal stout or a stout that I think is really good. So we're going to do the Christmas ale, and again, it was a free beer from Garfield. So I'm getting beer sponsors all over the place.
Oh man, I'm left behind in the beer sponsor area here. If anyone wants to, oh, no, actually, yeah, Chris bought me some beer not too long ago. So thanks again, Chris. Yeah, I'm due for. I think I'm up pretty quick here. We're getting into almost December. It's getting close to Christmas. Maybe someone will buy me Christmas beer.
Well, I've made a fatal error because these require, and I don't have one on me.
You're gonna have to run out. I'll just have to do a song and dance while you're trying to go get
Why don't you wing it for a second?
I'm gonna wing it for. I don't know if anyone's watching us live right now. It's Black Friday, so I'm guessing not. But I'm gonna keep going, and otherwise, this is all gonna get chopped out in editing. So anyway, well, I'll tell you a little bit about Paperback, Glendale, California. I'm wondering if it talks about the. I'm always interested in the illustrators and the artists that are working on this. Like, this is really pretty cool stuff. One of our clients at Dry Run a few years ago, that's all they did was designed beer labels and wine labels, and pretty cool job. All right, so okay. That's the end of the cut. I'm gonna cut. That's where I'll chop it off in editing.
All right, so yeah. So anyway, I got all these people coming in. They're giving me like free beer now. So if you're a neighbor that lives on my street, I need a sponsor for every week for the rest of the year.
Yeah.
So I know there's 4 of you living over now. I'm gonna go put cards in your door, just like the landscapers do, and say, "Bring beer to my house so I can do this."
Yeah, that's a pretty good gig if you can get it, man.
or point me in the right direction to another sponsor like Breckenridge did. So anyway, let's talk about. I thought it was interesting. Again, Thanksgiving to me is pretty reflective. There's always things I'm thankful for. Some of the cool things that have happened in my life, the cool people in my life that I love, and some of the great experiences. This one has an opposite approach to that. It's saying that, your failings become the stepping stones, for your journey. So I'm going to kind of dig into that because it's a reflection in a different way.
What was the quote again? Because I know you told me what it was, but I
It says, "Where we fall are the stepping stones for our journey."
Where we fall are stepping stones for our journey. Okay. Yeah, that's a little like it's.
I took that to be a failing. I took that to be a stumble. I took that to be, a lesson learned.
Yeah, absolutely. It's kind of a really poetic way of, tripping, falling on your face is how you learn, right? But what I find interesting is the way they connect it to the stepping stones. Like you have to fail, but not only is it you have to fail to learn, those failings are directly related to that next step you have to take. So that's kind of an interesting way to explain it, because sometimes it feels like, you fail and then you go to something new and you try something new and try something new, trying to find that thing that works. But it's that experience from that failing that it doesn't leave you, and it points you in that next direction. It's really important. Like, it sucks, but it's really important to fail. And what they always say, fail fast, right?
Yeah. What's interesting to me, all right, so again, I'm going to take this into, like, I don't know, outer space or something. But I think the universe talks to you, right? I think the universe purposely puts either people or situations or opportunities in your way or in your path for you either to take advantage of or not, right? So and I won't go as far to say it's predetermined. You're predisposed to a destiny already, but I think there are some choices that you're given, some opportunities you're given that sometimes we miss.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember the quote from a few weeks ago. And it was something along the lines of, it isn't luck, it's pattern recognition. Or no, gut. It wasn't a gut feeling, is actually pattern recognition. And that's the way I look at it, as it ties in, is that when you fail, because that's all people do all day, every waking moment, is their brain's doing pattern recognition, they're recognizing things. Otherwise, can you imagine if every time you opened your eyes, everything was unfamiliar? Like, it's all trying to recognize what's happening, different contexts, different sounds in different contexts, all pattern recognition. And that's what failings, I think, do, is you fail from something and you learn from it and you take that next step, but that next time something comes up, you recognize it. And I think that's a lot the same with entrepreneurs with opportunity. You're always looking for opportunity, but it's that years of recognizing good opportunity, bad opportunity, and having that pattern recognition that helps you pick them out of the crowd. Like, that's a good opportunity, right?
Yeah, so that's really interesting, and I tend to agree with that you become more you become better at recognizing the pattern. You're like, no, I've been there before. This isn't going to work. When we talk about the failings, though, I'm telling you, today, my origin story, you know how every superhero's got an origin story?
Yeah.
I'm cash flow Mike today because of the stress and anxiety I had when I was building the hotel staffing company, and I'd maxed out cards, and I had a home equity line, and I had payroll stacking up as we grew, and my customers were slow on payments, right? They were slow on payments. So I'm sitting there always like waiting for the next check to come in, because there was nothing electronic. Back then, there was no electronic payments. It was run to the mailbox every day and see if it's there.
Yeah. I remember the first time I got an electronic payment, and it was magic, because it was like, we've all done that. Like some of the younger entrepreneurs, maybe not, but we've all done that lonely walk to the mailbox. The check was supposed to be in the mail. You're expecting it to be there, and you're like, this is my payroll for the next month, and this one check, I hope it comes in. And I still remember this when, at some point one of our clients, it was a government agency, I believe a government department. I'm pretty sure it was one of the departments we were dealing with gave us like a form to fill out so they could do direct deposit. And that was probably the tail end of my agency days. So we went almost all paper check, but I remember right at the end, also I'm like, oh my God, like the invoice has its due date on and the cash showed up in the bank on the same day. I'm like, that's magic. Now, I do have to say that there still has to be a person that says, yes, go, send that payment. So it's not like it's magic. It's not like all of a sudden all payments are on time. But for the ones that are kind of, instead of throwing the check in the mail on a specific day, they're actually sending the money. That's still a massive revolution, right?
Well, yeah, and the thing was that you'd have clients go, "Oh, well, we sent it," and it's not like there was a tracking number, right? Where you could have some, some ease of, I know they sent it because here's the tracking number. UPS has it, or somebody has it.
Yep.
They're like, "Oh, you just trust." It's just blind trust that they actually wrote the check and then put it in the mail and sent it,
and that the mail got there. I remember, and this was going back 15, 20 years. We had the mailman for our business for the building we were in went on vacation. We found all this out after. All I know is that I kept going to the mail, and we would have mail, of course, every day, and we had checks that we're expecting, and your bills and everything else are coming in. And all of a sudden, I'm like, went about a week, and there's no mail. This is not right, and I'm expecting stuff, right? And so finally, I went to I was a building manager or whatever, and then they called their contact at Canada Post, and like next thing you know, someone from Canada Post down there, well, so and so went on vacation, and someone else was covering for them, but they weren't actually covering. And you realize how dependent you are at that point on mail service, which thank goodness you aren't as much anymore, because even with good mail, it takes days to show up. But I got to tell you how much of a hassle this was, because there were checks we were expecting. There were like our business license it got lost. It never did show up, and then they got mad at us. It was the whole thing because of this one mess up with the post office.
Yeah. Wow. So I did two major things to work myself out of that position. One was I begged the hotels. Right, I'm like, hey, listen, you can't treat our invoices like they're paper towel invoices. These are people. You got to look at it more like payroll. So they were paying in 60 to 80 days, and I got them down to 45. And you would not believe the stress relief when you're getting paid in 45 days as opposed to 80. Yeah. Right? Just like, oh man, it's just an influx of cash, and all of a sudden it's just coming in faster. Yeah, that's still slow. But it was a whole lot faster than it was just by, almost begging them. Yeah. The second thing I did was I bought the bar, right? Because then I could have a cash-based business where money was coming in every day, right? So I always had something coming in. I wasn't just always waiting. Yeah. And the next lesson I learned, was about people. Because I walked into this bar, and the reason I chose it, I looked at it for 2 months. It was totally mismanaged, and there was a grift going on, right? And I couldn't figure out exactly where the money was leaking, but I knew that sales and other things, the vending machine money wasn't hitting the cash register, right? It just wasn't. So I knew there was other money to be had there. So I walked in with cameras and a POS. We had a grand opening party, like set for like 4 weeks in, like a month after taking over. Yeah. Half the staff quits that morning. Yeah. Just because of all the stuff I had taken away. Yeah, I had taken away most of the things that they were doing to earn extra money in the place. That's why he sold it, because he couldn't make money, because the employees were making the money, not the owner. Yep. Dude, I'm begging friends. Hey, listen, just come in. You can drink free tonight, whatever it is. Just come in, just clean off tables and all that. We'll figure out the other stuff. So it was just a scramble on how your staff, they needed to be gone anyway, but they put me in such a lurch, at the last minute.
Yeah. Well, and that tells you a lot about it. That, of course, tells you every single one of them, the reason they're leaving is because they can't steal from you. Like, and then they actually organized and left at once. That tells you that it's one step back, 5 steps forward, because you know what the wrong staff can do to a business. Like, I know right now that there's you see it every day, you see articles every day of how bad bosses are and how bad CEOs are, how bad business owners are. And granted, there's a lot out there. I know there's a lot of, but let's not forget that there's some really awful employees out there, and the damage they can do to small business, especially because there's no safety net there, is pretty extreme, right?
Yeah, and this was one of those little neighborhood bars that just kind of runs, like a neighborhood shop. So, and I didn't know that before. I'd never even been a customer in there until I started going in there to kind of see what was happening.
Yeah.
So there was no loyalty to me. They're just like going, oh, he came in here and changed everything, and now it's worse for them, right?
For them,
it ended up being better because we ended up cleaning up the place, updating it, making it a nicer place to be, and it actually turned out to be a cash cow. We actually took a lot of money out of that place, but it was just, I could not believe. I mean, when they walked out that morning, what I was going to do that night. You work your ass off is what happens. Yeah,
and it's it's when bad things like that happen, it feels like the world's caving in. But truthfully, like one day probably wouldn't make that much of a difference. Like, we've gone to restaurants before and they got a sign up on the door. Yeah, we got a water main break, or we got this, and you're like, okay, I'll come back next week, right? But those things are so big at the time, right? But it shows you, like, you took a failing business and turned it into a good business. And one of the big fundamental things you did, like, you solved problems you did, but actually you just got good staff. And it's amazing what a good team can do. Like, it completely transforms a business.
Absolutely. All right. So I made a comment earlier. I want to kind of clarify a little bit. It was about how the universe talks to you. So I'm going to tell a story. It might be lengthy, so cut in. But it talks about the failings, things that were happening around me that I didn't have control of, that actually ended up being the best thing in my life. And I didn't feel like I had any control, right? But it was a stepping stone, meaning that I was teaching in Memphis and got done early. Because I got done early, I changed my flight. And instead of going through Chicago, I went through Dallas. I had like a 35, 40-minute layover in Dallas. I usually, when I go to the airport, I'll go to one of the clubs, the airline clubs, and grab a beer, grab something like that, and just kind of spend my time there. So A, I changed my flight. B, I get there, the airline club's being remodeled, so I can't go to the airline club. So I just turn to the right and go, oh, there's a bar, there's a Dallas Cowboys bar. I'll just go in there. So I go in there, got my AirPods on, and I talk loud. I'm just sitting there talking about on the phone. I'm talking to somebody on the phone, and Courtney walks in. Don't know her, from Adam. She wasn't supposed to be in Dallas. She came up there that morning, no luggage or whatever, to help something with her boss in Dallas, and going to fly back to San Antonio that night.
Yeah.
She walks in, sits 2 chairs from me, and there we are. Except for we don't talk to each other. I'm talking on the phone real loud. She's kind of pulls out her computer and doing her thing. The bartender comes and stands almost between us, and I could see her mouth moving. And I said, hey, I'm sorry, I didn't hear what you said. Right? Took up my AirPod, and Courtney turns and looks at me and goes, she's not talking to you. So I looked at Courtney and said, oh, hi, I'm Mike. And that's how we met, right? And 35 minutes later, we exchanged a business card and just talked on the phone for like 30 or 40 days and says, hey, let's go on a date. But here's a way that the universe put me in the right spot at the right time. Her the same way. An opportunity existed. It just, any other time in my life, it wouldn't have existed. I would have never met her.
Yeah.
And I can point to 10 other things in my life where that's happened. If these 8 things wouldn't have happened before, 9 wouldn't have happened either.
Yeah.
But what do you think of that? Have you had those situations?
Oh yeah. Like you can point to Well, I can point to like how I met my wife. I can point to my like our CTO, my co-founder. Like it, there's yeah, like there those things sort of they sometimes it just seems to fall into place. But I'm convinced it falls into place a large part because you're open to it and you're looking and you recognize it, right? You recognize that it's there. And but I'm relieved because when you said you're going to go into this whole universe thing, and I'm like, oh no, I hope you're not adding crystals to our store. like where is this going?
I just, you know, if you believe in string theory and time travel and vibrations and all that, which is science, which, you know, it talks to you. It just,
Yeah.
things happen that you cannot explain.
Yeah. Oh no, absolutely, yeah. Like so, we're not talking the nobody told me tarot cards and Ouija board or whatever.
Oh, maybe we should do that. Would somebody buy those? You think somebody online would buy those? I mean, nobody told me Ouija card.
Nobody told me. Yeah, I don't know. It's worth a try.
We'll sell anything. We will sell anything.
Yeah, we have the just given her crystals. I'm not even sure what crystals are. I've just heard them on TV. They talk about them on TV. It's some kind of, I don't know, astrological thing or something.
Speaking of, stepdaughter went to dinner with us one night and took out this crystal with a heart and laid it on the table. And I didn't think nothing of it. Like, okay, well, it's weird, yeah. But we're at dinner. My daughter, who went to dinner with us, Roy, sees and goes, "Oh, are you trying to pick up a boy?" I'm like going, "What? That's a signal?" So how many times have people put crystals on the table in front of me and I didn't see it? You know,
is that a thing? Like I've never heard that.
Apparently, I mean, this is you got to realize, I mean, two young girls are talking about this particular type of crystal. It has something to do with, it's pink, it's in the shape of a heart. It's like a rock.
Okay.
It's small enough you can hold in your pocket or your purse, and you know, I guess people will take it out and leave it out in the open, and I guess it attracts the opposite sex. Or maybe not the opposite sex. It attracts somebody to you.
To attract somebody in a way, I'm like, I have trouble believing guys would notice a crystal on the table. It's like, maybe it's just me. Like, I don't know.
But I had to be sitting at the table and see, like, going, why is there a rock on the table? You know, like, we're at a nice restaurant. What are we doing here with rocks on the table?
It was funny because I had I'm starting to feel middle-aged much more than I thought I would. And because like that, I've never heard of that. It's like, don't understand it at all. But what I found, like, so my wife and I got new bikes here in Arizona. We got similar to Edmonton, we got e-bikes. And started, and they're awesome because we can go all over town. We're doing like, we're doing twice the distance easily, and we're going all over the city. And we were out in Fountain Hills earlier today. It's quite a long ride. And so we were at one of the sort of popular Scottsdale Quarter shopping area, nice place. And Heather and I stopped in and sat down to have a beer in this place, and we had our bikes just over on the rack, not that far away. And what was hilarious was like all these young, trendy people walking by, and they're just not taking notice. I'm like, didn't expect them to. But then I started to notice every middle-aged couple that walked by, the dude stopped to look at her bikes. And a couple of them literally stood there with their hands on their hips, and they looked at the bike, and they're looking underneath, and they're looking, and then they're talking, and then they're looking, and they're talking. And I'm like, and after I told Heather, I'm like, you know what? No one's ever going to steal our bikes because the only ones that give a shit are these middle-aged dudes walking by. But it stops every one of them in their tracks. And so we were yesterday, Thanksgiving, yesterday afternoon, we thought we'll go for a little ride, and we popped over to the Starbucks, and sure enough, this dude walks up, and we talked to him for like 45 minutes. Hilarious conversation. We had a lot of fun. I'm like, it's these e-bikes. It's like a magnet to middle-aged dudes. It's quite hilarious.
Well, because most of us, right, we took our bikes apart and put them back together, and now rarely you even see a kid riding a bike.
Yeah, and it's a shame because it's they're so much fun, right? Like I grew up riding bikes. My whole life I've been on bikes, right?
I did bikes, skateboards. I mean, mini bikes. I mean, if it moved, I want to be on it.
Exactly. I still skateboard. I had I don't know if I told you the epic wipeout I had last fall or last year on an electric skateboard, because now I've got e-skateboards too. They go way too fast, man. They're so much fun. But anyway,
Hey, the other thing is that I could not wait to the minute I could get a driver's license. Could not wait. I mean, I was driving before. I was driving illegally. I was sneaking off driving. I bought a car at 15. I'd sneak it out. I got caught by my mom one night. That is taking it. Because I didn't have anything right. Didn't have a license. Didn't have the. I didn't have a license. I didn't have anything right. I just wanted to drive so bad. So did all my friends.
Yeah.
Today, it's like kids are indifferent. Like, I don't care if I'm a driver or not.
Yeah, it's bizarre. But of course, we never had Uber and all that stuff at that time either, which is kind of magic. But no, I couldn't wait like 16 and like one day, I think. And I'm like literally out there getting my driver's test so I can get my license.
All right. So the day I got my driver's license, right? The day, it was my birthday, 16th birthday. My grandpa takes me to get it. I take the test in his car. I passed it. Got my, because they could print the license right then. They just make it and print it and give you your license right then. I didn't have to wait in the mail in the 1900s. This thing. He goes, all right, you know what? Boy, let's go buy a car. I'm like going, you're kidding me. Because I grew up in a poor family. I'm like, my grandpa's going to buy me a car? That's really cool. So we go, and your town probably has, the same road that my town has, where all the car dealerships are kind of in the same area, the same, just all kind of clustered together.
Yeah.
So we go in one lot, and we drive by a bunch of cars. He kind of slows down at this AMC Pacer, and like, I don't want no fishbowl on wheels, like a little cooler than that, So we drive out, and he goes into the next lot and just kind of does a slow thing all the way through the third lot. And I say, hey, shouldn't we like stop and kind of get out and look at a few of these? He goes, well, why would we do that? I said, well, I thought we were going to go buy a car. He goes, we didn't buy a lot of cars. He goes, you didn't think we were going to purchase one, did you?
Oh, that's so mean. That is cold, but that's awesome.
Who knows how long he waited to do that to me? He said we've been buying a lot of cars.
Oh man, that's awesome. That's epic.
Yeah, so, hey, should we talk about our sponsor?
Yes, which is on my iPad, which is in the other room. So I'm going to see if I can get it on my phone.
Got it. All right. So let me get started here. We got
Sure.
First of all, if you have been listening to Nobody Told Me with Mike and Blaine since September, we have been really promoting one of the most fantastic products I've seen out there on the market. It's called mylifeinabook.com, mylifeinabook.com. And, today's episode, like all of the episodes from now until Christmas, is sponsored by mylifeinabook.com. And I'm telling you, it's one of the most thoughtful gifts I've ever come across. It's for parents, it's for grandparents, anybody in your family, and it doesn't matter the occasion. It could be birthdays or Christmas or anything. It's a really powerful way to connect emotionally with them. You can preserve their most precious memories and show them that you really care. And best of all, guess what? It's instantaneous gift. You can get it right on the spot, and you can even get it the last minute.
And so this is how it works. So every week, My Life in a Book lets you choose from a list of thought-provoking questions, or even write your own, which gets sent to your relative by email. And your relative simply answers back. They can choose to add a picture if they want. And this happens every week. And at the end of 1 year, all the stories are combined in a beautiful keepsake book. They can store your relatives' memories forever, pass them on to future generations. They're all printed and sent directly to you. So it's easy. It's literally like sending an email and your relative just replies. It's amazing how simple it is to get this big book, 52 little stories.
I mean, come on, we got everybody else's books on the shelves. Why not have one of our own family, right? Something we can pass down, we can read. Never get your story wrong again, right? Always have the details right from the person that lived it. And you can request as many copies as you want, and even get it in audio format as well. So with mylifeinabook.com, you can give those you love the most a personal gift that tells them they're meaningful to you and all future generations. So to save $10 off your first purchase, go to mylifeinabook.com and use the discount code NOBODY at checkout. That's nobody, like nobody told me with Mike and Blaine, at mylifeinabook.com. So use the discount code NOBODY and get $10 off your first purchase.
And a perfect time to do this. We're 1 month away from Christmas. This is a great time to get this going. It's a terrific book, and it'll be something you can do with your relatives all through 23. Really, really cool.
Really cool. It is super cool. So, so that grandpa story is funny though.
That was awesome.
See, and now, if I would have had mylifeinabook.com, I would have had him, he's already passed. I would have had him tell the story, because I think it would have been that much more funny to hear it from, I'd waited for 17 years or 7 years, whatever to do this. I'd heard it, down at the bar, I'd heard it at school or wherever he was at,
Yeah. And then to tell people after what he did, because I'm sure he was bragging about that for the next month. Guess what I did to my grandson?
Yeah. I'm sure he did that. Yeah. Man. And the thing is that I could never get away with my kids because I tell the story too much.
Yeah, but your grandkids might not know it.
There you go. Right. See, because grandpa, you're right. So it's kind of funny that way. So, all right. So tell me about a time where you thought you had failed, and maybe it was a long time ago, 10, 15 years ago, and that actually helped you, we'll say in the recent past, or you think it's going to help in the future.
Oh boy. Every time, if you spring it on me, tell me about a time. I'm like, I can't think of anything. And then it's like, just don't tell me about a time. I'm like, I got 50 of them. But let me think of that, because it was quite specific. It wasn't just a failure. It's like, long time ago, help me now. But that's a bit of a tricky one, except that, it reminds me, like, every week we talk about all of these different stories on this show. And the reason we have the stories, and some of them do go back 10, 15, 20 years, it's because they did have an impact. Like they are things that remind you that next time. And so like we've talked about, I'm just trying to think of a particular instance, but we've talked about, staff and this and that and all those types of things. But one of the things that we've been like dealing a lot with at Dry Run lately is just, we've got customers from all over the globe, like 70 some countries and all different sectors and that. And we've just been refocusing to say, yeah, okay, but it's a little bit too much everywhere, just this, that, and the other. Let's focus in, like, who is our perfect customer? Who are the ones that we should be developing for? Everybody can benefit from these things, but it's sort of bringing that focus back. And that's something that I think has been recurring through my career and everyone's sort of business. It's just this point where you can start to see the signs of things are starting to get a little bit scattered. It's time to bring it back down and get a stronger focus. And that focus is what really helps drive things forward, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think you're right. Here's a recent lesson I've learned is it has to do with, because I'm like a serial entrepreneur, right? I've done this like 14 times. I've only did it a couple of times with a partner, right? To get something started. I usually kind of do things solo. But I've had a couple of bad partner experiences, right? I mean, one of them worse than the other. Mm-hmm. But we'll say, and I've got this new thing now where, a 50-50 partnership never lasts long term. It just doesn't, right? Because somebody's got to make a decision. Yeah. But now what I've noticed is that as a minority business owner or a minority in the partnership, you've got to protect yourself, from being beat up too bad by the majority. Yeah. It's a really weird thing that you hope when you go into a partnership that everything's going to be rosy, and you hope that everything's going to work out fine. Yeah. When it doesn't, man, oh man, does it cause a lot of problems.
Yeah, like when shit hits the fan, it just goes Yeah, because I've had experiences on both sides. One that sort of probably didn't work out as well as I'd hoped, and one that, and like my co-founder now, we've worked together for years, and it's amazing how well we work together, and the deal structures are different, which can make a difference as well, right? Like, I agree with you. 50-50 partnership is probably the hardest one, because you're right. In the end, someone has to make a decision, and there's going to be times where you're at loggerheads, right? Uh, it's tough, and it's hard to see. Like, I don't know if I see a lot of those around. Like, they just, I don't know if they last that long, right?
So in 2000, I don't know, I'm gonna say 10 or 11, I went into a 50-50 partnership because I came in with some money, but the other guy had already worked on the idea, already had it developed, already had it branded. I was just gonna kind of come in. I'm like, all right, I'll just take 50% then. But we saw that was going to happen right off the bat, which is there's going to be a time when we can't break the tie. I want to go left, you want to go right, and which one do we do? So because we didn't want to give up a position, even if it's 49-51, 49 and a half or whatever it is, and 50 and a half, we chose to put a clause in the operating agreement that said if we could never agree, if there was a point in time where we didn't agree, we would pay our accountant $10,000 to make the decision. Guess what that clause does?
Oh, that especially in cash flow and being business, so like too cheap to put up. So we'll find a way. We'll come up with a funny answer.
We're going to figure out how to work this out.
Yeah, exactly.
But that's a limiting clause that says it forces you and your partner. And that's an example of something good that we did, actually, which was we put something in there saying if we can't agree, we're going to pay somebody to make the decision. That means you really got to believe in what you're saying to be able to come out of pocket. And I pay $5,000 and you pay $5,000. And he all he's got to do is say, I like his idea, or I like his idea.
Yeah. And if just my observation, I've never done this. I would suggest, if anyone comes up with this idea for their business, I would suggest you don't breathe a word of it to your accountant. Because then every time you go to the office and you meet with the accountant, he's like, hey, did you hear what Mike said?
Yeah.
You hear what he said? As soon as you leave the room, he's like, hey, did you hear what he said about you? Oh man, he thinks you're just a moron. Your idea? He thinks it's stupid.
You for $10,000 all the time. Yeah. Like, honey, we're wanting to go on a cruise. I'll just get the Mike and Blaine to give me $10,000.
Yeah, exactly.
Now the other one was, there was a 10% difference, in us, and you just kind of have to eat a shit sandwich, is what I call it. You don't like it, but here's your shit sandwich. You just eat this for right now. That's basically what happened to me.
Yeah, that's not fun, and it's tough because like partnerships are challenging, and they can, like we talked about last week, is it's really hard to succeed on your own. Like, so that's the other side of it, right?
Right.
It's like, man, you need that team. You need someone to call your bullshit too, right? And so it's tough. It's such a balancing act, because it's not like, well, then everyone should be on their own. No, because you need that help. You need that team to do things, right?
Yeah. Well, but tying it back into the failing, that was a failing. So the next one, and this is a weird out of the blue thing. My father-in-law came up with this great name, whatever it is, and I'm going to get trademarked on Monday. they'll tell you what it is. But we're having a conversation over cards the other night. Like, okay, well, I've already bought the domain. I've already bought got the social media handles. I think it's a great brand name, and I can't find anything that would hurt it. But we're trying to say, okay, well, how are we going to divide this up? I've done all the work. I had a logo designed for this thing that's fantastic, right? Just love it. Yeah. And so it's one of those things where we're talking about, okay, now we got two couples involved, because it's father-in-law, his wife, Courtney, and I, that we're all kind of pitching in, doing some work. this could be a colossal, horrendous crash of a relationships, or it could be something fun that a family does together, right? Just kind of on the side.
Yeah, you don't want this one to be a stepping stone. You want the other ones to be the stepping stones.
Yeah, well, so we decided to do this, which is, I don't know if it's good or bad. We decided to go more 50-50, but it's the two guys are going to have 26, 26. The two girls were going to have 24, 24. And it's not a sexist thing. It was his idea and I've done the work. That's why. Right. So it's not a sexist thing. It's more division of work, than anything else.
Yeah.
But then we're assigning a managing partner of the LLC, right? Which means that, that's the person that when people can't agree and the vote doesn't come out right, then that one person gets to make the decision. So that's another way to kind of attack that problem, is to assign somebody as the managing partner. It's the same thing as saying we're going to pay an accountant. When I mentioned that to the group, they all went, no. We're not paying anybody. We're going to figure this out.
Yeah. Sounds complicated, man.
It was complicated. Here it is. This might be my 15th business. It is just something fun on the side. It's just a little. Next week after I file for the trademark, I'll tell you what it is.
All right.
Because it'll be out here, and actually I can tell you right after the call here, but I won't put it on the podcast when I'm on paperwork yet.
Yeah, exactly. And this won't be online quite yet, but we don't want to try and time that. You're not trying to beat the podcast to air, right? So
what if it fails?
Oh, I forget. We're also live. So I don't know. Maybe it's Black Friday. I don't know if anyone's listening today, so we'll see. Yeah. But if you are, you're not hearing the secret. So
yeah, but that's right. So anyway, I think it's an interesting thing. But that's what I'm saying. Maybe the two past bad experience I've had with other people is a stepping stone to being more thoughtful about how I go into this now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
No. Or
no, I just
or as Blaine, if I could live in his house half the year.
Yeah.
I'll be the opposite of you. I'm going to live in Edmonton in the winter, and I'll live in Scottsdale in the summer.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it gets smoking hot here.
That's what happens. You get kicked out of your own house.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. No, it's it still comes down to it's where we started talking about this is it's not just failings and it's like, well, I won't do that again. It's there's more than that. There's depth. Like, you're going to do this again, but I've learned from this. I've learned some of the things that maybe didn't work, and this is how we're going to recognize beforehand and try and adjust for things. So that's where they become the stepping stones. It's not just failures by the side of the road. It's that you're learning and you're using it to implement on the next one, not just avoiding it. Because it would have been easy for you to just go, I'm never doing the partnership ever again. Rather, instead, you went, yeah, I learned from these ones. Let's just do this. Here's where we saw things that didn't really work. And let's, go in with our eyes wide open, right?
Yeah, I mean, if you believe in business, like I think you and I do, you're going to find ways to make it work faster, right? Going, okay, yeah, here's things where I stumbled. Here's some areas where I wasn't as good, so I've had to train. I mean, I just bought a coaching course, marketing, because I know I've got to get better at that. I know that it's evolving around me. And I don't want to be the guy that doesn't understand it next, because it's moving really fast right now.
Yeah. Yeah. That's the other thing, that the speed of everything is increasing so much. It's hard to keep up, not just on like marketing and technology, and it's speeding up so fast. Right. And the market's changed. Like, look how much the market's changed in the last, basically since 2020. Suddenly people were locked in their houses and buying remote and doing all the things have changed so fast. How do you keep up with it all?
All right. So, I just finished a big website redesign today. When was your first website that you made? Do you remember?
Very first website?
Yeah,
I
I
mean,
mean,
like,
yeah,
well,
for
commercial
a
ones
business,
for a
for a
business.
business,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
for a
Cause
business.
I made websites when I was going to school. Like I made, I was taking design. I'm pretty sure the first sort of commercial website, I was going to say my first job, my only job, like kind of the only time I sort of worked for somebody else. Like I was a graphic designer right out of university for a couple of years. And I when you mentioned that, I think it was I redesigned their website. I think I'm sure they had one. I think they had one, or maybe I made their very first website because this was back in like 1996. Like websites were quite new, and I remember like I don't even know if we were using Flash yet. I think I maybe had like some animated GIFs and stuff like,
Yeah.
and I'm sure if I saw the website now, I remember the time we were thinking this is unbelievable, cutting edge, and I'm sure if I saw it now, I'd be like, oh my god, don't show that to anybody ever because it
Well,
must have been awful.
you can go to the Wayback Machine. They probably have a copy of it. Have you seen that website?
I think you mentioned that. You know what? I'm gonna see if there is because this is way, 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 way,
I mean,
way back.
I don't know how far back it goes, but I mean, it's interesting to see how far back it goes.
I do. I kind of want to see now, actually.
Yeah. So for me, 2004, five, somewhere in there for the hotel staffing company.
Okay.
And it was only like 3 pages, maybe 2 pages, like the company, maybe a services page and about me page or something like that.
Yeah.
About us. But yeah, it was something like that, and it's terrible. So I was late to the party. If you think about it, you know, early 2000s, but I think I was late to the website party, meaning I didn't get it. Yeah, matter of fact,
Yeah.
that was about the same time. It was about the same time that I got a MySpace, and I think I got a MySpace before I got a website.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Could be. Yeah. Because
Yeah.
like when I made like my first web, there was no social media. There's no like Facebook came years later. Like I'm sure my first website was probably around 1994, maybe 95. Like as I remember, it was like it's all hand scripted in HTML. And I think we had was it Netscape? No, Mosaic. There was a browser that was I was kind of the only browser at the time, and I think it was like basically all background color text, and then I think at one point we like I put a picture on it
Yeah.
because it's probably like a design website, like portfolio site. I'm like, yeah, no pictures because it's 14.4 modem, beep 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 beep, and it's like here's my one little picture that was this big, and it's um, so that
Yeah.
was that was my first website. Yeah,
Yeah, but I wasn't building that. I had to have it built, right? Because I didn't
yeah,
get it. I didn't understand how to do it. There wasn't a lot of tools to do it yourself.
yeah,
And they were charging ridiculous amounts of money to have a website built.
yeah.
It's like I couldn't believe how much money it cost to have a website built back
Oh yeah.
then.
Well, and it's amazing how much things have changed because I remember we like quoting on back in long ago my agency day, especially early on, and people would want like an e-commerce site. And looking back, like it was I don't know 5 6 figures just for the e-commerce part, and it probably did 1% of what Shopify does now for like $20 a month. Like it was just
Yeah.
unbelievable how that technology's changed, and it changed virtually overnight. And you're doing something that because it makes perfect sense. I get Shopify. It's like people should not have to build this from scratch every time. This makes zero sense. And I'm sure there's all sorts of different systems now you can use for that.
And I kept having marketers come in and go, "Oh, well, you've got this new craft bar or whatever. You need a website." I'm like, "What do I need a website for?" But we're here. You're going to drive by and see it.
Well, and like a great example, like I know you set up mikeandblaine.com, and I
Yeah.
think you set it up in like a half an hour, and all of a sudden you're like, now we're selling stuff. Can you believe that a few years ago, you like none of that would be happening, and suddenly it's like, well, we got a site up and we're actually selling merchandise and everything, and people can buy us beer and they can do all this kind of stuff and watch all of our episodes and all of that. And
We did
it's
that
like
in less than 5 hours, the whole thing, and it
everything.
evolved over time, right? It just like
Yeah.
going, yeah.
Yeah. Everything. And the price was like we literally put up a merchandise store for no cost. Like it's awesome. It's amazing,
I
right?
I think we pay for the whole works $500 a year.
Yeah. That's just
The
unbelievable.
store, the site, everything. Yeah.
Yeah. It's unbelievable. I had I had a little bit of again, probably my middle age showing up, but it stunned me. It was a couple of weeks ago, so maybe I even mentioned on last week's podcast. But my wife and I were out in a state park here in the desert, walking by like saguaro cactuses and all that kind of stuff, and my phone buzzes in my pocket, and I pull up my phone, and it's FaceTime, and I pop on, and it's my in-laws talking with us over video from a cruise ship off the coast of Spain, live with no lag, while we're walking through a state park in the middle of nowhere. And after we talked to them, I never even thought about it. And then after I put my phone in my pocket, I'm like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
That is kind of unbelievable, because 10, 15 years ago, that wasn't even a pipe dream. 20 years ago, I remember getting the first cell phone, let alone now, like that's like Star Trek stuff right there.
Dude, I remember getting up and my dad making me call this number that was from the public library. It was called Time and Temperature.
Oh, yeah.
Time of what the weather was going to be like that day.
Yeah.
And before he went to work and I went to school. He just wanted to know that. I was like, going,
call time. I did that as a kid. Call time, because that's how you got your watches synchronized. This is not these things are all like 4 o'clock. It is exactly 4 o'clock, right? And then I got my analog watch, which is actually 1 minute off. Come to look at it, but
not only that, we're synchronized.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. To the split second. Yeah.
That never happens, right? Like if it never happened when I was a kid. Like it might be like 407 where you're at, and could be 519 where I'm at. Just not that far off, but it's never that close.
Never that close. And setting watches, like I was wearing an analog watch and stuff. So or not always, not when I'm biking and stuff, but I kind of find it comforting to have something that's not like totally exact all the time, right? Like it's just it's bizarre to have everybody instantly like completely synchronized across the globe.
All right, so here's what this did for me today. It was I liked reflecting, right? Now, again, like I said, normally I reflect on the positive things that I'm thankful for, that, I'm so blessed in a lot of different ways. Today, this topic made me think about some of the other things that may have contributed to some of the blessings, right? Like, just like with meeting Courtney, it's like some of the weird things that happened that day. If they wouldn't have happened, she wouldn't be here, or some of the weird things I've had with partnerships. If they didn't happen, I wouldn't be thinking, about partnerships the way I am now going forward.
Yeah. And, like I some of it to me felt like our entrepreneurs hardwired to accept failure in a different way. Because it feels like this is something that I've dealt with like your entire career, where there's just so many failures, and I don't dwell on any of them. It's just my personality, the way my mindset is. I'm like, yep, got it. Learn from it and on. And I'm always forward, push, go, and forward. And I just don't dwell on failures. But in a way, like every time I have a failure, I tend to look at it and go, yeah, we learned this from that. This is what we learned from that. This is great, because this is going to help us go here. Mm-hmm. And I wonder how much of that is just the type of wiring that entrepreneurs have.
It's a great switch to have the remember when switch. Remember when we did this? Remember when that happened? Let's don't do that again. Here's some other ways we can avoid it.
Yeah, exactly. We had one earlier this week. It was kind of funny because we were looking at we're replacing one of our systems with potentially a different system, and both my co-founder Dark and I are like, it might be great, but let's tiptoe into this carefully. And I'm just like, I shouldn't necessarily name the company, but because it is a good company, they have good services. We used them at completely the wrong time. And I just said, remember the HubSpot debacle? Because we used them, we were way too early, way too young, and they were way too expensive. And it took over everything. And then when I realized, oops, that's not the right system for the stage we're at, for what we have, for what we're doing. And going back and it was the most painful, absolutely painful thing to try and get back to scratch. But again, like I learned from it, and it's not like that is a well-known system used all across the globe. We were not the right people. We were not the right business at the right time. And oh man, did we learn the hard way from that. And so now it's like, man, yeah, we tiptoe in. It's not like this moving to another system for something might not be awesome, but we're making it like a really careful decision.
One of the most valuable assets you got is that CRM list, right? And it is hard to just start over. It's hard to figure it out.
Yeah, it is. It's anyway, it was just one of those hard learnings. And sometimes that's a great point too, is the hard learnings. It's not like it's something wrong. It might just be the wrong fit at the wrong time. And that's just what it is. But that's what you learn from as well.
Yeah. Hey, I want to thank Garfield over at Texas Greenscapes. He gave me this Christmas ale from Breckenridge. So thanks, Garfield. I appreciate that. And don't forget to go to our website, check it out, look at the merch, buy us a beer. Blaine, last thoughts.
I'm going to thank my wife for buying me beer. So, no, last thought. This was great. I do want to mention mylifeinabook.com, guys. We're getting close to December. This is a absolutely perfect gift. Make sure you go check them out. This is a great opportunity for you guys to all of you look just great in front of your spouse, your in-laws, your family, whoever it is. They're all going to love this idea. So definitely go check that out.
All right. Hey, another great one of the books, number 66. We are cruising on through 2022. Season 2 is going to be coming to an end, but I'm looking forward to season 3 with you, my man.
Season 3 is going to be epic. I think we're going to have like special effects explosions in season 3. So come back and check us out.